everyone. Thank you for including me in this auspicious event. It's an honor to be here. And as already said, when Yasmin asks you to do something, it's next to impossible to say no. So delighted to be here. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about some cultural preservation projects in Afghanistan and Pakistan that the United States Department of State has supported since 2002. Just going to discuss a few of them. It's been more than 70 projects in total, but I think we'll just look at 6 or 7 today, and starting in Afghanistan. I like to begin with this image, this simple and elegant statement which sits on a plaque at the entrance to the National Museum of Afghanistan in Kabul. A nation stays alive when its culture stays alive. And that statement could even be adapted to a community stays alive, or a village, or a family. And this very much is an underpinning idea of the projects that the Department of State supports, but I think that so many people in this room, we as in some form or another of stewards of heritage, can relate to. So the National Museum of Afghanistan in Kabul was, during the Civil War in the 1990s, damaged. It sat on the front lines of fighting factions, and its roof was bombed, the interior was burned, and this image here on the left is Mujahideen fighters sitting in what is the lobby of the National Museum. Just some images of the condition of the museum in the 90s. Storerooms were looted, more than 70% of the collection. The National Museum in Afghanistan was looted. Its records set fire, nearly destroyed entirely. Starting in 2002, a group of many international donors and really experts on the ground, Afghans and internationals alike, set about the daunting task to restore the National Museum, including replacing the roof, windows, just sort of taking a basic inventory of the collections that were there, some of which had been rehabilitated under the Taliban era. And that's a topic for another day, but to show some images of progress from the storeroom image there in the late 90s to what a storeroom looks like now, very state-of-the-art, with everything cataloged, and that's years of dedicated work, mostly with Afghan professionals working in the National Museum, with support from the Department of State and some international specialists as well. Some before and after pictures the facade of the National Museum on the left. And if any of you have not yet been, it is most certainly worth a visit. It's one of the finest museums in Central Asia for the richness of its collection, and for also now for its curatorial practices. Central hallway, you can see on the upper level what it looked like during the height of the Civil War and its current condition. It's quite an improvement. In the spring of 2001, systematically, not only were the Buddhas of Bamiyan destroyed, but as well as a very important Gandharan collection within the National Museum systematically smashed. And at that time, the only restoration work that could be done was simply literally sweeping the fragments into boxes to be dealt with at a later time. And you can see now on the left side, this picture was just taken a couple of years ago. One of the curators, a Gandharan specialist, holding fragments from Gandharan sculpture from the site of Nangarhar, Hatta in Nangarhar province, if you know this. Some of the images of the fragments as they are, early photographs. They had been excavated by the French in the 1920s and later. And currently, now there is a large-scale restoration project to completely restore those fragments that you saw in the previous slide. as best as possible using conservation experts from Italy as well as the United States. It's a multi-year project ongoing as we speak, even with the ultimate aim to be to repair this damage, but also to understand in new ways this important body of artifacts that are part of Afghanistan's cultural heritage. And sometime in 2021, early 2021, there'll be an exhibition at the National Museum in Kabul displaying the results of this good work. Some of the restoration work also includes contemporary techniques unavailable years ago of 3D imaging to better understand how these objects were both made, but also how to repair them. And one of the underpinning reasons why to support this work in the first place is to make the heritage available for generations to come. And not well known is that thousands of school children every year visit the National Museum in Afghanistan. And in many cases, it is their only exposure to the richness and diversity of the nation's heritage, which isn't typically included in the official curriculum in public schools in Afghanistan. Moving on quickly to another very important cultural preservation project taking place with support from the United States in the north of Afghanistan in Balkh province is the region's oldest Islamic structure, a site called Nogambad, means 9 domes. Sometimes the site is referred to as Haji Piada for an important shrine of a saint who's buried just adjacent to Nogambad. It's a late 8th, early 9th century structure with early Abbasid molded plaster. I'll leave the art history for another time, but an important site that is still a devotional destination for Afghans, mostly because of some of the other important religious figures who were buried at the location. But the project's been underway since 2009, very meticulously carried out both study and preservation stabilization of this site. The roof had collapsed from an earthquake some centuries ago, so none of the domes remain. But through archaeology conducted by the French archaeologists and an international team of experts, this project is ongoing. And another project I'd like to just mention briefly underway currently in Parwan province, just outside of Kabul, is the restoration of a 4th century Buddhist stupa. In the village of Topdara, which is also the name of the site as well. Being undertaken by entirely Afghan-run and operated NGO, began in 2017, is ongoing. We expect to be supporting it for several more years. One of the largest stupas in the region, and a point not to be underestimated is the impact on local communities that these cultural preservation projects can have, where for multiple years in a row, in the case of Topdara, we're employing 50 to 60 local skilled and unskilled laborers from the adjacent village, whereas employment generally is less regular than that. Moving to Pakistan now to discuss a few projects that the United States Department of State are supporting in Pakistan, the site of Takbai in KP province, with interestingly an Afghan-owned but Pakistani-based NGO in Peshawar and Mardan, is a small-scale preservation project at a portion of Takbai, also a World Heritage Site, like we are here at Makli, and a very important early Gandharan settlement in KP. It's a devotional destination for Buddhist pilgrims, as well as a very popular destination for Pakistani tourists alike. some of the before and after work, which is addressing issues of water damage and just structural issues for some of the archaeological and architectural features at Takhtbai. Some before and after photos. Next, another project here in Sindh, in Karachi, the site of Varandev, a Hindu temple on Manora Island here in Sindh, implemented by a Pakistani organization called SEAS for the conservation and restoration of this Hindu site at the very diverse Manora Island. And the site itself, this Hindu temple was late 19th, early 20th century, so historically speaking, perhaps not the most important example of Hindu architecture, but yet still important in terms of the Hindu community in Karachi. And as a result of the restoration work, the site has been opened and is visited frequently and for devotional visits and also for school children to learn about Varandev. And then finally, to conclude, one of the most important projects the United States has supported in Pakistan is here at Makli, with the excellent partnership of Heritage Foundation led by Yasmin Lawry. In 2014, I believe it was 2014, Yasmin, that this project commenced at the tomb of Sultan Ibrahim and Amir Sultan Muhammad here, and you can see it actually just on the rise outside of where we're sitting now, and I hope all of you will have a chance to visit. What the Heritage Foundation undertook there was a very detailed and meticulously carried out documentation and study of the structures, as well as meticulous preservation of these important monuments here at Makli, a most important site for Sindh as well as for Pakistan writ large. And Yasmin's good work and the Heritage Foundation's work has really set a standard, in my opinion, internationally for what heritage preservation work can be in Pakistan and across all of South Asia, for that matter. So on this topic, I'll conclude, and auspiciously here we are at Makli, and I hope all of you all will have a chance to visit Yasmin and Heritage Foundation's fine work right here on site. Thank you.